as I said at the beginning, peace and security will always be looming large over what we do. We have a number of areas. We have Mali, which has become Mali and the Sahel, which has become a major complex crisis, which we have to deal with, which has a potential of spreading across the region and even the continent. But also not just in our continent. If we don't deal with the Malian situation decisively, if the terrorists and the criminal groups take root there on the Sahel, then they can move in every other direction. So it's something that, and I'm glad that we all see it that way, and there is a synergy and convergence of views around the issue. And I think now we have to have coordinated action to assist the Malians to deal with that, but also just beyond Mali, the Sahel region to also deal with that. Of course, the Sudan and South Sudan, progress has been made, but there's still lots more to do. So Mali the same, there's lots of progress that has been achieved, but there's still lots more to be done. But also, as we look at peace and security, it's very important to look at it in a more holistic. If we're looking at Mali, if I were to use that as an example, there are security issues, there are political stroke election and so issues, there are huge humanitarian issues there, but there's also development issues. And so we have to look at all those, probably the most urgent being the first three, the security, the political, and the humanitarian. But in the long term, development is very important to make sure that this situation never recurs again. There's Guinea-Bissau. There's also the issue of narcotic trade that is becoming a common denominator in some of these conflicts, and that we need to deal with together. We are just the root of these drugs. We are not necessarily the producers, so the supply side needs to be looked at, but also the demand side, because as long as the demand keeps increasing, the supply side will survive. So I think we together should look at where is the demand, where is the supply, where is the route, and deal with it in a more holistic manner. And maybe lastly, two things. There is the Pan-African University that we are trying to establish as a AU, which will, as you know, in the first instance have 5 campuses, each one dealing with a different area. And we hope that we can have support from the partners as well, and more support as this university is established. 4 campuses already have been allocated. Southern Africa still needs to decide on the campus, but the areas of specialization, as you know, have been identified. And so a lot of support will be necessary there. But it will be crucial to have this Pan-African University succeed. One, because it's looking at filling the gaps in training in areas that we think are critical for the future. Things like governance, good governance, human rights, and so on. Looking at science, innovation. Obviously, if we are to be properly industrialized, we need to be in innovation as well. Natural and human scientific areas, we need to look at space science. We are hosting the SKA. There's a lot of human resources needed there, and we need to get African youth to be involved, but they can't be involved if they don't have the skills. F sciences, climate change, so a number of very critical areas. And of course, we also have to get into the 21st century by reducing our carbon footprint and making sure that we also incrementally get into clean, renewable energy. So these are areas that you can support us at the AU level, but also at the member state level, bilaterally and multilaterally. We also, maybe just to conclude, feel that our communication, the AU does a lot of good work, but it never really gets properly communicated. Our communication is rather weak. But you can imagine that if we don't have much money to spend on our programs, communication will be the last thing that will have a budget. But it's also very important to communicate what the AU does for the citizens of the continent to understand, so that they can also support what the AU does, because you can't support something that you don't know. So we would like to find a way of communicating a bit more to our citizens, but also to the world about what we are doing, what we are about as the AU, and what we want to, and where we want to go in the next 50 years. As we are celebrating the 50 years next year, it's good to look back, but it's more important to say that's where we've come from, but where are we going? And we need to mobilize our citizens around a common vision going forward. But if we can't communicate with them, then it becomes a big problem. So that's really a few things I wanted to share with you in my first 3 weeks. Obviously, as I understand and know the organization better, and we will keep having conversations, and we'll see whether that changes or not. I don't think dramatically, but obviously there may be things that may arise as we go along. But once more, thank you very much for being with us. And I would also like to thank you for having supported us in the past, for supporting us now, and thanking you in advance for the support you are going to be giving us in future. Thank you.